simply saying that that sex is
My
different
question,
than gender.
why
And I do believe that
do
women's sports have a great
exist?
value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right
Ms.
now.
Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there are so many positive benefits to sports.
But
I mean,
why have a
we've talked
separate
about it here
category for
today.
women? If there's no difference between women and men, why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the last decade.
Mr. Chairman,
which
I would
determine
like to enter into
related
the
to
record an
participation.
article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men. And it goes through examining in 2017 the top records for women in the world in various track and field events. So, for example, in the 100-meter, the top record for women in the world was 10.71 seconds. Now, that record for the number one woman in the world in 2017 was, in the year 2017, broken by 124 boys under 18.
All right, folks, buckle up, because what you're about to see is the slow-motion destruction of women's sports, brought to you by radical ideology and spineless bureaucrats who are too afraid to answer a yes or no question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Title IX was a landmark civil rights law. It helped create the incredible breadth of women's sports and girls' sports that we see across the country. I believe in girls' sports. I believe in women's sports. I'm the proud father of two daughters who are both athletes. I think participating in competitive sports is a wonderful thing for a young girl. I think it is a wonderful thing for a woman. And I think, unfortunately, today's Democrat Party has decided that women's sports and girls' sports no longer matters, and they're willing to push radical legislation designed to destroy girls' sports and women's sports. Ms. Gaines, I want to thank you for your courage. You are relatively young, but you have demonstrated incredible courage. And because you have dared to speak up, you have been demonized, you have been vilified. I saw when you were attacked by a leftist mob at San Francisco State University for daring to speak up. You had an incredible record as a swimmer at the University of Kentucky. You were a two-time NCAA All-American. You were a five-time SEC champion. You're an SEC record holder and a two-time Olympic trial qualifier. But yet on March 27th, 2022, something changed. What happened on March 17th, 2022?
That's when Thomas and I raced in the 200 freestyle and again resulted in a tie.
And so you tied. What was the consequence of tying?
We went behind the awards podium where typically you're handed your trophy, you're marched out, you're named an All-American. And so we go back there, and the official looks at both Thomas and myself and says, "Great job, but you guys tied. And we only have one trophy, therefore we're giving this trophy to Leah." And I question this, and I say, why? And at first, I shortened it in my testimony, but really he stumbled on his words. He didn't know how to answer this. And at first he's, well, we're just doing this in chronological order. To which I further pressed, and I said, okay, well, what are you being chronological about? Because we tied. And if we're doing this off alphabetical order, G comes before T. So what are you being chronological about? To which this wasn't a script they had prepared for him. And he actually appreciated his honesty. He did say, we have to give the trophy for Leah because Leah has to have it for pictures. They've made that clear. Leah has to have the trophy for pictures. You can pose with this trophy, but you have to give yours back. You have to go home empty-handed. Leah Thomas takes the trophy home. End of story.
Now, let me ask you, as someone who's competed at the elite level, in your experience, is there a difference between women and men?
Of course. I think we learned this at a very young age, watching even 12 and unders play. Going through puberty causes irreversible advantage, that no matter the training, no matter the diet, no matter any alterable change you can make, will overcome that male advantage. Especially in sports like swimming, where lung capacity matters so much. Even something as silly as throat size, men have on average a 40% larger throat, which sounds like it's nothing, but when you're grasping for air, that 40% larger throat makes a huge difference in athletic success, not to mention height. You guys know the differences.
Ms. Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and men?
If the question is about trans women,
I'm just asking, is there a difference between women and men?
I mean, what I can say is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition
Okay, I'm
happened,
going to try again.
the rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes/no question. Do you believe there's a difference?
Oh, I think that we're talking about this case with the NCAA.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply. I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the context of the
Is that a yes?
conversation that we're having. I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is
but
that
I
a
also
yes?
think
So I'm
that when
trying to
we're-
get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech.
I'm
Is there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're
which
not
is
answering
different
that.
than
Let me ask
gender.
you this question then. Why do women's sports exist? If you can't define a difference between women and men, why not abolish women's sports and just tell little girls to swim with little boys and see who wins?
Oh, I'm simply saying that that sex is
My
different
question,
than gender.
why
and I do believe
why
that
do
women's
women's
sports have
sports
a great
exist?
value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right
Ms.
now.
Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there are so many positive benefits to sports.
But
I mean,
why have a
we've talked
separate
about it here
category for
today.
women? If there's no difference between women and men, why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the last decade.
Mr. Chairman,
which
I would
determine
like
that
to enter into
related
the
to
record an
participation.
article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men. And it goes through examining in 2017 the top records for women in the world in various track and field events. So, for example, in the 100-meter, the top record for women in the world was 10.71 seconds. Now, that record for the number one woman in the world in 2017 was, in the year 2017, broken by 124 boys under 18. In that same year, the record for the number one competing woman in the 100-meter dash in the world was broken by a total of 2,474 men. If the radical Democrat agenda to destroy girls' sports and women's sports succeeds, little girls will not have a chance to compete. So I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record.
This hearing should have been simple. Title 9. Fairness. Biology. Reality. Instead, we got word salads, dodgeball answers, and ideological gymnastics that would win gold medals if reality didn't exist. Title IX was one of the greatest victories for women in American history. It gave girls opportunities. It gave women scholarships. It gave female athletes a fair playing field. And now, the same political party that claims to protect women is lighting that legacy on fire. Let's talk about Riley Gaines, because this woman is the real deal. Elite athlete, SEC champion, Olympic-level swimmer. And what did she get for speaking the truth? Attacked, demonized. Screamed at by mobs who hate facts more than they love inclusion. That's not progress. That's intimidation. Now, this part is absolutely insane. She ties in an NCAA championship race. Same time, same finish, same result. But only one trophy exists. And who gets it? Not Riley. Not the woman who earned it. Nope. She's told, sorry, Leah needs it for pictures. 4 pictures. So Riley can pose with the trophy, then give it back, and go home empty-handed. That's not equality. That's ideological favoritism dressed up as fairness. Then comes the most embarrassing part of this hearing. A simple question: is there a biological difference between men and women? And suddenly, no one can answer. Everyone forgets 5th grade science. Everyone starts chanting NCAA rules, NCAA rules. Let me translate that. Yes, but we're too scared to say it. Puberty matters, lung capacity matters, bone density matters, height matters. This isn't controversial, it's biology. Here's the knockout question. If there's no difference between men and women, why do women's sports even exist? Why not just merge everything? Why not tell little girls to try harder? Because everyone in that room knows the truth. They just refuse to say it out loud. And then, boom, facts enter the chat. Elite women's world records? Broken by hundreds of teenage boys. Broken by thousands of men. That's not hate. That's data. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. It just destroys women's competition. This isn't about being cruel. It's about being honest. It's about protecting girls who train their whole lives only to be told, sorry, your biology doesn't matter anymore. If this radical agenda wins, women don't lose medals. They lose the right to compete at all. If you believe women's sports deserve protection, if you believe facts still matter, if you believe courage should be rewarded, not punished, smash that like button. Subscribe for real talk. Drop a comment and tell me, when did truth become controversial? Because patriots don't stay silent, and neither should you.